Welcome to Shmooze Views Torah Observant Judaism. We're going to begin this week with the weekly Parshats. I know we're well into the season at the moment. We just finished up with Shemot and we'll be going into Vayikra or Leviticus here very soon. But I'm going to start from the beginning, even though all of the Parshas are up on my website from the beginning. I wanted to get them out here on our YouTube channel as well. So we're going to start today with Parshat Bereshit, or Genesis, beginning in chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 6, verse 8. If you like our videos, if you like our teachings, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever we post our new teachings up there on the website. Also, if you like what you're seeing, give it a thumbs up. Hit that like button because that will help other people get it and distribute this video out to more people as well. So let's take a look at the very first Parsha, Genesis, Parshat Bereshit. Before we set out, there are a couple of things that we need to come to understand when reading not only Genesis but the entire Torah, and that is that it is not a history book, although it relates certain historical events, which is being proved almost every day to be true by archaeology. The Torah, however, is not a history book, and it's not a science manual, even though it touches from time to time on the scientific. And while it isn't a book designed to teach grammatical formulation, having an understanding of its original language, which is in most cases Hebrew, in a few cases Aramaic, it's important to understand the original. If the Torah is none of these things as we understand them in our time, then what is it? Well, Torah, first and foremost, is a love letter. It's a letter of introduction and a love letter from the Creator to His creation, the entire universe, specifically to mankind, humankind on planet Earth. It is also an instruction manual to His creation. One particular group of people, in particular, is the Jewish people. The Torah relates to us how He wishes us to live in order to be able to best apprehend Him in our everyday lives, and He to have a fellowship with us, His beloved, in an intimate, spiritual, as well as practical way. The Torah is the story of creation, humankind's beginnings, and the process by which Hashem, from His point of view, initiates that intimacy. The Torah is, as stated, an instruction manual, a book of law. If one wishes to understand the how of created things, one will be greatly disappointed in reading these opening verses and chapters of Genesis. If one is seeking the who of creation, however, then these same verses will fully enlighten the eyes of understanding. As we begin our study of Torah, we will come to realize that these opening chapters are a preamble, a prelude, if you will, to the story of Israel and its function to be a set-apart people for the Creator to carry out the commission first given to the first humans, Adam and Chava, or Adam and Eve. Well, what was that commission? As we will soon learn, it was to open the tree of life to all who would freely partake of it. This tree of life, the Torah and all of its commandments, is the stream that quenches the thirst of humanity for its Creator, and it satisfies the human soul. This has become known as Tikkun Olam, which is, in its purest meaning, indicates more than just repairing the world, but in the deepest sense, preparing the whole being of humanity to come into an active, intimate relationship with the Creator. The first verse of Genesis opens with, "In the beginning, God," Genesis 1:1. Various translations have rendered it in various ways, such as, "In the beginning of God creating the heaven and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness upon the surface of the deep and the divine presence hovering over the surface of the waters," or, "When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the face of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the waters." There are a myriad of translations following the above pattern of interpretation. While they try to eliminate the original Hebrew, in my opinion, they assume too much by trying to imply a process of understanding that may or may not be indicated. I prefer the simple and direct literal interpretation of the Hebrew text. In the beginning, God created the universe and the earth. The earth was in a chaotic state, clothed in darkness, and the wind of God moved over the waters of the deep. The next several verses follow Hashem's creative process. Light, atmosphere with water above and below it, appearance of dry ground, seedlings for vegetables, appearance through the atmosphere of the sun and the moon, living creatures in the sea, down in the sea, in the air, and the land, culminating with the creation of human beings, male and female, in the image of God. Hashem rested on the seventh day, creating the holy Shabbat. In our terms of measuring time, how long did this creation take? The Torah says a total of 6 days. However, we must not forget that this story is being told from Hashem's perspective, not ours. Was it our 24-hour day? God's day, as poetically described by Moshe Rabbeinu in Psalms 94, "For in your sight 1,000 years are like yesterday that has passed like a watch of the night." We simply do not know and likely never will. What we do currently know is that the earth is approximately 4.5 billion years old, and the universe itself is around 14 to 15 billion years old, coinciding with Hashem's order of creation. In the beginning, God created the universe and then the earth. With our Jewish calendars, we date our beginnings currently as the year 5,781 years since creation. But is this really the date of creation, or the date starting with the first post-deluge civilization of Sumer, the home of our father Abraham? I personally hold to the latter, but all the speculation and even scientific understanding of the age of the earth and the universe tells us absolutely nothing of the length of time it actually took to begin and to create it all. So, I will stick to Hashem's perspective of 6 days and leave the length of those days to Hashem. The next 2 chapters deal in more detail and more depth, telling the story of humanity's parents, Adam and Chava, and their offspring, as well as the first pre-deluge civilizations of mankind. We are introduced to a series of firsts. The first disobedient act, sin, transgression. The first conception and birth of a human child. The first offering of sacrifices to Hashem on an altar, and sadly, the first murder and first exile. We learn of the development of the first cities, states, trades, craftsmen, all that is necessary to make a civilization viable and functional. In these first 6 chapters of Genesis, we are introduced to some famous and infamous people. The aforementioned parents of humanity, Adam and Chava, their first 2 sons, Cain, the first murderer, and Abel, Hevel, the first victim of violence, and Seth, first in a long line of humans to invoke Adonai by name. It is during this time of Cain and his brother Seth we see the beginnings of a divide in humanity between what has become known as the sons of light and the sons of darkness. It is during this time of Cain and his brother Seth, in chapter 6, that we start out with a strange telling of a time when the sons of God looked upon the daughters of men and how beautiful they were and took them as wives. The way it is portrayed in the Hebrew indicates that many of these daughters of men did not go willingly with these sons of God, but were forcefully taken. In other words, raped. Why is this incorporated in the story at this point? And who are these sons of God? The truthful answer is we simply do not know for sure. The Hebrew is a bit ambiguous and simply calls them B'nai Elohim. It has been translated as divine beings, sons of rulers, angels of God, etc. The most accurate description based on this Hebrew and latter usage in Tanakh would be the powerful ones. Powerful ones were the rulers and princes of rulers of the people during the pre-deluge civilization. Over time, these sons of darkness became the dominant ruling class and began taking advantage and liberties with the peoples, covering the earth with a cloak of spiritual blindness and tyranny. Dictatorial rule reigned over the whole earth. It became a time of mighty and ferocious men of renown for their age. Eventually it became so bad that even children were not exempt from the effects of such deep-rooted darkness and rebellion. Adonai saw how great was man's wickedness on the earth, and how every plan devised by his mind was on nothing but evil all the time. Genesis 6:5. It is in this darkest moment of depravity of humanity that we are introduced to one glimmer of light still remaining on the planet. But Noah found favor with Adonai. Genesis 6:8. Next week, we're going to take a look at the life of Noah and his family and the events that took place during that time. He was a marvelous man, unique to his age, and I'm going to look forward to going over that with you next week. So until then, shalom.